Good morning. I'm Andrea with Happy Cloud Creations, and I am jumping on because it's week 5 of the Infinite Night Helix Quilt Along. If you haven't joined yet, it's still not too late. The pattern will be 10% off through November 15th, the end of the Quilt Along. This quilt has a lot of different blocks. Each block isn't that hard, but keeping it organized is what makes it more of an intermediate quilt pattern. So this week we're working on some more blocks. Last week we started our blocks. Before that, we started making units to our blocks. I like making all my units up in the beginning. That way, when it's time to start making blocks, all the harder work is already done and you're just kind of piecing them together. So if you have any questions through this video, please let me know. I like to wait a couple seconds in case sometimes it's hard to find the video. I know not everybody gets a notification and it takes a while. Hope you guys are all having a great day. I'm enjoying pumpkin spice latte creamer. It's probably one of my favorite creamers. So this week we will be making 6 blocks. It's one of each block, one of C, D, E, F, G, and H. So these blocks will complete this center helix, if you call it. And then next week we'll start working on the blocks for the side panels. So if you are making the baby size, you'll want to know on page 9 where we'll be working on today. Right here, this highlighted area, that's for you if you're making the baby size. Baby lap size. It says after you complete blocks C and D, you're going to want to jump to page 13 because that'll be your blocks to complete this center. If you're making the baby, it basically kind of looks like this center helix, but the sides aren't there. I need the pattern. I'm running late. Oh, it's okay, Lita. You can go at your own pace. You know, it's not too late to get the pattern. It's still 10% off. Ramona's here. Yay! You usually need to watch the replay. Yeah, I think a lot of people end up watching the replay. I'm so happy you like it, Lita. I made this, if you guys weren't around for when this first came out, I made this pattern for my nephew's graduation quilt. So I kind of designed it, and then my husband and kids looked at it and said, you should make it swirl like a double helix, and it didn't originally have that design. It was just a 2-color quilt, and they said, oh, that would be super cool. So that's why I gave it that helix design to it, because my husband and kids, you know, what would I do without them? And so they helped me with the name too, Infinite Night Helix. Okay, so we're going to get into it. There's some people on here. If you have questions, let me know. So we're going to start on page 9. We're going to be making, why I grouped these all together is they're very similar blocks. So we're going to be making one of C, D, E, and F. If you are making the baby size, you won't be making E and F. You're just going to be making C and D. And then after you make C and D, you will jump to the page 9, or page 13, where you'll be making O and P. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so with this pattern, it's just very important to make sure you're sewing all the pieces in the correct spots. So that's why even if it's just squares, I will take a little pin and I'll pin them together so that I remember, okay, I need to sew one of my background pieces to my color A, and I need to sew one of my background pieces to my color B. But actually, you'll need more than that, just more than one. It'll tell you at the bottom of each step, make, for throw size, you'll want 4 of each color combo. And so each one, you'll know, okay, that's how many I need to make. Oh, that's the wrong block. That's why I'm like, what? Okay, so yeah. Right down here, it'll say 4 of each color combo for throw, twin, full, queen, and king. Baby, you only want 2 of each color combo. So once you have these done, which the only recommendation I have for these is you want to make sure your seam is consistent from top to bottom. You don't want it veering and smaller at the top or the bottom, because once you go to press this open, it can make it funky. It can make your blocks too big if this is smaller up here than throughout. So just, consistent seams. If you're having a hard time having a consistent seam allowance, go slower. It's not a race. We can slow down a little, and that can help with your accuracy. So once you have those done, step 2, you will be adding, for the larger sizes, you'll be adding, I don't know if that's backwards for you guys. The red squares will get a red on the top and a white on the bottom. The white squares, or the white square will get a white on the top and red on the bottom. And you'll be making 4 of each of these combos for the larger size quilts. And for the baby size, you will only need 2 of these. And so I like to just pin it on both sides. That way I can go through my machine and just sew all of them at the same time, chain piece them. It goes together a lot faster. And then you're going to want to make sure to take note of the little arrows. The little arrows in the pattern are showing the way I like to press them. If you like to press your seams open for less bulk, you can do that too. I just prefer pressing to a side. I feel like it gives this the quilt a little more stability. So once you have these units done, you're basically ready to make the block. You'll be making, so this is the center of all 4 of those blocks. I just kind of lay them flat together, pin them in place. Since there's not really a seam to nest at these corners, it's kind of like these will just kind of overlap this. The rectangle and the square will kind of overlap this diamond and square units about a 1/4 inch. And if they don't perfectly line up, I don't think, like, mine didn't perfectly line up in each spot, but when it's quilted and far away, it makes it easier. It's like, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it still gives that flow of the Helix design. So, for the C and D, you will be adding these larger rectangles to the sides. And then for the, the C and D, and then for the E and F, you'll have these smaller rectangles on the side. So it's basically the same blocks, but they're not, the E and F are not as wide. That kind of gives the center of the quilt has larger stars, and then it goes smaller and smaller. And that's how I did it, so that once we add the blocks to the sides of these, it all makes sense later. So you're going to have 2 of these in the C and D. You're going to have 2 white ones, and then you're going to have 2 red ones. Oh, no, actually 1 of each. So you're going to have 1 of these as a C and a D, and 1 of these as an E and an F. But the other one's going to be the red diamond. That makes sense. It shows you right here. So you're going to be basically looking at this. Okay, I need 1 C, I need 1 D, I need 1 E, and I need 1 F. So any questions about those blocks? I feel like those go together fairly quickly and easily. It's just, make that center and then add those strips to the sides. Pretty easy. And then we got a block like this. I haven't finished all of mine. That's why I'm not showing you the one with the red diamond in it. Haven't quite finished that because I wanted to show you all the pieces undone. So once you have those done, as you go along, measure this to make sure these side pieces are ending up the correct size so they'll line up with your diamond correctly. Because once these blocks start forming, they get very large, and you might not have a large enough ruler to measure the whole block to make sure it fits. You could also lay this block, once it's finished, on your cutting mat just to make sure, okay, it's the correct size. And then also sometimes I will just take like my straight 6 by 24 inch ruler and just line it up to the sides to see if, okay, sometimes these won't line up perfectly, and I'll just kind of trim it so that they're straight and they line up at these edges, because sometimes when you're sewing, one fabric will stretch a little more than the other, and then it'll make one stick out more than the other. These ones end up being pretty good. I think pinning is key to making them all line up correctly too. All right, so once you make your C, D, E, and F, we'll go on to page 10 to make G and H. With these, G and H, G and H are going to be basically the tops and the bottom of this center helix. And so that's why once you're done with C and D, which there was a typo, step 2, right here it says block B and C should measure. It should say block C and D should measure. So if you're ever wondering if any of my patterns have corrections for the typos, you can go to happycloudcreations.com and then click on pattern corrections or updates, and it'll tell you if there's any updates. All the digital ones, if you purchase them now, they're corrected. I need to get the paper ones reprinted. I still have a few copies so that have this typo, but someone bought one yesterday, so I wrote a little note on the packing slip so that they would know, okay, because it's not like, it's kind of self-explanatory. Okay, yeah, that's a typo. So we'll go to G and H. Does anybody have questions about G and H? They're fairly simple. We already made the diamonds that we will be attaching in G and H. Or not the diamonds, the large arrows. So you'll want to remember, okay, I made all those large arrows. What am I trying to find? Okay. Start throwing these out of the way. Okay, so this one starts basically with the same thing. Sewing a rectangle to a square and a square to a square. Just keeping consistent seams on both. You're going to have red one and, or not red for you, an A and a B with a background, and a B and an A and a D with a B and a D. So once those are sewn, I like to just finger press them open and press them. It's having you press it to the background. I mostly did that because, you know, my backgrounds tend, in this quilt and the previous one, were darker. So that's how I did it, and that's how that nests properly. So once those are done, you're going to sew. It's probably backwards for you because of the screen. You're going to sew that to the side and do that as indicated on here. So you're going to sew this little strip square unit to a bigger square, and it'll tell you what size you need for your quilt. And then you're going to sew it onto the bottom as well. So the whites, so the A's are touching, and then when you do the B one, the B's ones will be touching. So it kind of makes like this little corner unit. Pressing as the pattern instructs. And then basically on step 3, you're going to be laying out all the pieces you made. So you already made your arrow units, and now you have these side units. You'll be making one of G and one of H, because one will go on the top, one will go on the bottom of that helix. And then when I'm sewing my, because I have you sew them in columns, when you're sewing that arrow unit to your square, you're just going to want to make sure your seam is right above that triangle of your arrow so that you don't chop your point off. And then when you iron it, you're going to be pressing it open to the square. I feel like it gives it less bulk if you press it to something that has no seams. And then you'll have that little point there if you match it right up to that point. And then once you have all three of those sections together, pin in place and sew. And then you're going to have your G and your H. And then just set all of those aside because we have a lot more blocks to do on the side panels, the side columns, which we'll be starting those next week. So we have 3 more weeks of blocks. And then the last 9th week of the quilt along, we'll be putting our quilt tops together. If you have any questions along the way, you can email me at happycloudcreations@gmail.com. Most of the time, those just go straight to my inbox and not to spam. So I check my spam every day because as in the past, they've gone to my spam for some reason. So I check them every day. So if you have any questions, let me know. And I'm excited to see everybody's put together. So make sure to post your photos. I know a lot more people are posting their photos over in the Facebook Quilt Along group. Not as many are posting on Instagram. But you can still post it on Instagram with the hashtag Infinite Night Helix QAL, so everybody can see. Next week, I will be jumping on to do a live tutorial. If anybody has questions, I'll be jumping on Tuesday at 11. Yeah, I'm looking at my calendar. Tuesday at 11. I'll put an event in the Facebook Quilt Along group so that everybody can have a little reminder. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.